Hi and welcome to the Sonjiland show where everybody's upside down. And today, finally, I get to talk to the Splits Wizard, aka Emmet Louis, or the other way around.
Splits hobo, some people have been calling me, but,
What Splits hobo?
I'll take
Anyway.
both.
Every day is upside down day in Sonjiland. I had to narrow down the questions I want to ask you because there's just so much wisdom in you. So I think we'll just start with how did you become such a well-known teacher? Can you tell us a bit about your story?
So the teaching side, so I explained a lot of stuff online, so I skipped to the teaching for a bit, but it's one of these things where it's like I kind of fell into it a lot of the time because I was working as a personal trainer in London who also, because of my background in acrobatics, I noticed more and more people were seeking me out for movement sort stuff, which generally translated to handstands, tumbling, flexibility. And then I started just answering more questions on Reddit, bodyweight fitness and places like that. And then people were more interested in how do adults get flexible, because we don't really, it's not general knowledge. It's it's a different process to what people are told. So that became more and more popular. So then for some reason I teach other things, but then I've known most for the flexibility stuff because it's kind of like it's the easiest thing to demystify. So
Is it?
yes.
Huh. So how do you make people so flexible?
It's generally to do with treating everyone as an individual. If we look at most stereotypical stretching plans, they are the exact same plan given to everyone saying you must do this, 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 and this. And you must do these 5 stretches for your quads, and these 5 stretches for your hamstring, and these 2 for your calves, and blah, blah, blah. But when you're working with a person, you must treat them as an individual. You must look at, are they stronger? Are they hypermobile? Are they low exposure? Do they do a lot of resistance training? Do they do no resistance training? Are they familiar with the exercises? Do they know how to effectively just do the exercise? This is one that catches people out a lot. Because it's kind of like people go, oh, I'll do a split. How do you do it? I'll just move my legs apart. It's basically the same thing of going like, how do I snatch a barbell? Well, I'll just grab it and throw it over my head. They're very complicated movements in and of themselves. And if you don't understand what's going on and then how to adjust the alignment for yourself, then it just doesn't work, or it doesn't work as effectively as it could. So then you start thinking I'm tight or thing. Then it's also part of like we have to have realistic time frames. That like it takes 18 months really to seriously level up your flexibility. So if you start thinking like, oh, I'm gonna do 30-day split and get it, or 20-day split, or 100-day split, you're gonna probably be disappointed for most of the population. Well, if you think 18 months, you're not gonna be disappointed with your progress over that time if you have an okay plan and are consistent. That kind of thing is like teaching people this is how things go. It's kind of like, I've coached like kids circus and sports acro and stuff like this. It's even children, like all you have to do is just go on YouTube and look up like gymnast split tutorial and look up all the girls who are making tutorials on how to get your splits for gymnastics, who've already been in gymnastics for, I don't know, since they were 4. They're like 12, 15, 16, and they mightn't have their split, or they're making it for loads of girls that still have these problems. So even they don't get flexible. Like we have this illusion that they're instantly flexible, instantly mobile, but there's still a process that would bring them through. So people need to understand that.
Okay, so I'm really interested now because I talked to the Lee brothers on previous interviews, and it seems like they gained a lot of flexibility, but it also seems like they had an easy time doing it. Maybe you can give us a perspective as their coach.
Just speaking about them in general, they had an easy time in training in general because they had a very good lifestyle that was conducive to it. The 2 brothers, the 3 of them who are involved, you don't see the 3rd one that much.
Yeah.
But the 2 brothers, they are immensely supportive of themselves. They have a bit of brotherly fighting, what helps with these things, but they really back each other up. It's also their consistency is through the roof. Like as a coach, they're your literal ideal clients. If I told them you will count out 15 grains of rice and that's all you're going to eat for a day, they would actually follow that advice. They just have implicit trust. They go.
Yeah, it seems like you have their life in your hands.
I know. It's as you think, what can I do with it? But I appreciate their trust, and I really do. Have a lot of gratitude for them that they trust me so much and they follow what I say. But it's this kind of thing is that they're consistent. They basically got flexible, and it looks like it got fast, and the progress has been incredibly fast through everything. But it still took them 2 years.
Yeah.
Like it still took them 2 years of training with consistency. I think they probably missed 5 workouts in 2 years. of 5 training sessions.
So from your perspective as a coach, having worked with a bunch of other clients, do you think other people would have had the same progress if they would have done it the way they did?
I've seen people have similar like progress in circus school, and like in various circus schools would have the kind of same progression curve. I think it's possible, but it's also, there's a lot of like outside of training factors that go into these things. So when, okay, this is an example. So when they decided, okay, we really want to push it, make it a circus artist, they were able to move back home to their parents' house. Their parents are very supportive, so they work with the family business part-time, and then they have time to do training.
Yeah.
So, and that thing, like their mother who we met with soon, she's really supportive of, like, really wants them to go for it.
Yeah.
And like, these kind of things that we don't think about so much, whereas if they were kind of like, okay, I'm 26 and I have to work in a coffee shop and a bar, and I don't really have my bills paid on time, so I have this kind of stress, and I have to work late every night. These kind of things will detract from progress. But if you have this kind of environment that is very conducive to low stress, food's on the table, you can progress. You can just be left to do your thing.
Yeah.
Then you can progress at this rate. If you live in the real world, then we have to be slightly longer or slightly slower in our expectations. But
yeah, Josh talked a lot about personality, and he mentioned that you had a way of seeing them as basically a new person every day. Do you do that consciously?
Yes. Well, it's one of those things. I always just want to see what's straight in front of me at the time. So if someone comes in like previously, it's kind of thing with the classic thing with workouts. Like someday everything you seem is fine. You're like, I should be able to nail this skill. Some days it's just not going to work. Now, if you were to go in and go, oh, my handstand's just not working today, but it could. Like yesterday, I could do 2 minutes on one arm and there was no problem. And today it's just not working. And then if you expect to be the same every single day, you won't. It's always going to be changing. There'll always be something different. There will be kind of a consistent range you will operate in. But some days will be amazing, other days will be trash. But if you don't have an expectation of just like, let's see what today is, or if you go in and go, I'm going to go in and I'm going to deadlift 205 kilos for 16 reps. And then maybe you'll lift 14 reps, which is pretty fucking good. But you're going to, oh no, 16 was my number and I didn't make it. Then it's just like you're setting your expectations before you've done the thing. There's this kind of mental projection we want to avoid. We just want to always treat, particularly in training sessions, it's like, what can we do on the day? Is our plan able to accommodate these changes, these fluctuations? Just if you come in some days you're smashed. So if we have a range we can operate in rather than a set, like it must be 15 seconds of this, then it gives us leeway to go like, okay, I'm a bit tired, or okay, today I'm on fire, I'm gonna push the limit.
So is that how you program your clients?
That'll be most of the way. Clients have a range of things to operate in, either sets, reps, duration, rest periods. Anything is negotiable within sort of certain bounds. I think that's a better way to program rather than you must rest 30 seconds, do 4 sets, and each set must be 5 reps.
How do you program your clients' programs?
Once again, this is the individualization of training, where you have to look at the most basic level, who am I speaking to? It's what I call the 3 W's. So, who am I speaking to? What do they want to do? And where are they in relation to this goal? So then it's like, the classic example, we have a 16-year-old who wanted to go to circus school and become a circus artist all the time in the world.
Oh, so he said that from day one?
No, not from day one. From day one, they wanted to do calisthenics, actually. They wanted like handstand push-ups, one-arm chin-ups and shit. They didn't get into handstand until about 6 months of training. But, they say that person versus 52-year-old woman who has 3 days a week that she can train. So you have to look at like, okay, who is this person? What can they do? And then they go, well, what do you want to do? And they go, okay, I want to do one-arm handstand. We go, well, you want to do one-arm handstand? Well, what can you do that's kind of close to this? So we always try to find the closest iteration of skill that we can train. But then it's also like, how much time can they dedicate to training a week? Is it realistic to the skill? If they can, then we have to find like, for someone like, say, Josh and Morgan who train, they might have 8 to 10 sessions a week. That's easy because you can just put everything in there,
Yeah.
and there's time and a slot it can go in. Whereas for someone who can only train 3 times a week, that's when you have to like start really thinking like which exercise does this person need and which one will bring them to their goal, rather than going like, here's 3 exercises, one of them might be the best one and the other ones might be 50%.
So you just have to prioritize what's the most important at the moment.
Yeah, so that's when you come to a thing called a needs analysis, and you're like, okay, what is this person lacking the most?
Yeah.
Will it cross over onto the other things they want to bring up, and can we try raise everything at a certain rate? And then we'll have key indicator exercises or performance things that we're looking to bring up. Then if that's improved, then we know we've done it right. If it hasn't improved, then we know we need to adjust something.
So if you have this case like Josh and Morgan that they have all day, how do you build up that capacity? Because not everybody has that capacity to train for several hours.
Yeah, that was built up slowly, despite what the boys think. It was kind of, their volume was slowly titrated up in terms of either increasing leverages, intensity, amount of work per unit session. And then as they got more capacity, I was able to give them slightly more work.
Okay, so you did.
Yeah.
I mean, of course you did.
But it's just like, it's kind of like a lot of, I'd say 90% of what I'd done with the boys was telling them not to train.
Really?
Was telling them like, no, you don't stretch every single day. You can rest. You don't need to train this every single day. Hold yourself back. I remember there was a good 6 months where they'd had a massive increase in their passive flexibility, and their active flexibility and control hadn't caught up as much as I would want. So I banned them from stretching for about 4 months. They were not allowed to gain or increase their stretches on anything until their control had kept up. So that's very simple. Then it's like, okay, we've knocked 40 minutes or say 2 hours out of their training week on stretching. They just do activation and control.
Huh. It seems like Morgan doesn't really remember that, because you know he wrote me this insane program. And you told me to not do it 4 or 5 times a week, but just 1 or twice.
It's kind of, that's the thing, is a lot of this happens with, most people are kind of very good at a field, is they kind of forget a lot of the preparation phases, or don't understand the reasoning behind something and why it was done in the training. You see this in every single sport, like everything from soccer, boxing, or anything. You'll have someone who's very good, but then they had a coach who was kind of guiding their process and had a kind of like a pedagogy to it that they were bringing them through.
Yeah.
But then they just seen the end result where like Morgan could survive that stretching program, but you couldn't.
Yeah, obviously.
But that's fine, because he just goes, okay, this is what I can do now. He's in that, but doesn't think, rather than going like, this is the stretching program I'd like her to be able to do. How do we get her to it?
What do you think determines a good coach, and how do you become a good coach?
I think what determines a good coach is, one, someone who has, it's a hard one, there's a lot of things here. I think someone who can understand the science, like the proper science of training, and understand where it applies, but also understand that it's not exact, and that we don't want to extrapolate group tendencies to the individual. We need to look at where the group tendencies guide our decisions for this individual. So a classic example is, I remember reading a paper on squatting training recently, and it was, I forget exactly what it was. Maybe it was cluster training, maybe it was dynamic effort or something anyway. But they were comparing results, and the conclusion of the paper was that this type of training was very good for individuals in this age group who had 2 years of training and were 18 to 32. But when I was looking at the data set, they tested like the max weight these people could lift, done the program for 8 weeks, and then retested it. And there was 2 people in the group. One of them lost 20 kilos off their max squat, and the other one lost 10 kilos. And so, but the rest of everyone else had pretty good results, 5 to 10 kilo gain. So then it's like, okay, so these 2 people lost weight. So if I said this type of training is good for everyone, and then gave it to them, and they lost strength, then as a strength coach, you'd be kind of sacked. But other than that, or then, who knows if the testing conditions were the same. Maybe if they tested on Monday, maybe they tested on Wednesday, they would have had a better increase. So it's kind of, you have to be wary of that, and there's a lot of that in the training thing. Then it's also just being able to assess and understand people. It's like we have an ideal thing that we would like them to do, or we'd like to, go, I'd really like you to train handstands 3 hours a day and do all this. But then slowly fatigue would mount. You'd survive it for 1 week, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then your joints and everything starts aching, and then you've like gone beyond your capacity to recover. So understanding fatigue is cumulative. The other thing is just keeping people motivated. It can be quite. Everyone has a different motivation style. You know, some people are like they're perfectly fine with the grind. They go in, punch the clock, do the workouts. Other people kind of need like a little success every bit along the way. So some people, I have clients like that who I'll put in movements that aren't too difficult for them, just to get like, you know, very simple. Say the classic ones, like people who are learning a handstand, they'll get like, you know, arm balances, like the classic thing you see from yoga, arm balances, headstands, just things that I know they'll be able to do. So they'll go, okay, I want you to get this, and then maybe 3 weeks time they'll have it. So they go, success, success. But then the meat and potatoes of the workout is still the grind and the conditioning. But if they didn't have the little successes along the way, they get very demotivated about the programming, because let's face it, handstands take a long time. Acrobatics take a long time, and a lot of the skills we do, particularly in tumbling and other kind of circusy things, they're very binary from the perspective of the person doing it. It's like I can either do a back tuck or I fall on my face. But for me as a coach, it's like from day one of this person doing a back tuck, there's like, it's, you know, going from white to black by passing through every shade of grey. It's like doing that, and I'll see the improvements because I understand what I'm looking for. Like the person's jump is better, they take off, they get faster, they jump higher, they swing their arms better, all these things go in. But for this person, it's just like I jumped, I threw my arms and kicked my legs, and either I land on my feet or I don't. So understanding this kind of process and also educating people, particularly for adults, about that is going like, oh, here's the skill you were trying. Oh, here it is last week. Let's look at the video or thing, and we'll sit down, watch the video, and go, oh, look, see, your legs are straighter now. Oh, your arms are better. You're still not doing the skill, but all the little components of the skill are getting better. So understanding, you know, some people need that. Other people, it's just like, they're fine. They'll just keep doing it till they can do it. There's ranges in there.
Interesting. I have one last question. I'm trying to process everything you're saying. It's really interesting, but yeah, let's just move ahead. Do you have a physical practice for yourself?
Yeah, right now it's kind of for myself. I was like working as a performer for quite some time, and the physical practice was geared towards that. I've stopped performing now, so then I treat myself more as a science experiment, trying stuff out. But at the moment, I've been doing, a lot of stuff from Chinese traditional martial arts, with under the guidance of a guy called Serge Augier, who is the master of a Taoist lineage. And that was meant to be a 1-year research project to try the stuff out. So it's interesting. I've been doing it for 4 years now. It's very interesting.
And how does that look? Or what exactly do you
lot
do?
of like it's very interesting because our school is very old, and it's kind of like we have this concept of martial arts, and it's all like forms and kata or these kind of things, but we do very little of it. It's more, we have a certain physical quality we're trying to learn or embody, and then we have very simple combinations of drills, which would be, I suppose the equivalent in Western boxing would be like your normal bag work of like, you know, jab, jab, hook, jab, cross, hook. Like most of the things we do would probably be about 3 or 4 movements long, but it's still Tai Chi. It's like how Tai Chi would have been back in the day, or Baoge, or these kind of things. We have the forms in the school, but from Serge's point of view and his teacher's point of view, they're useless for actually teaching you to fight. So it's very interesting, particularly if you look at the history of it. It's the forms and all these long things that look very nice and pretty. They were kind of how people would advertise their art in the village square, like, and that only started for about 150 years ago. Up until before that, no one really done the forms. It was just like, how do we fight and defend myself effectively? So that's all quite interesting. Then the way they treat the body is quite interesting, as you had a bit of go of.
Yeah, it was really interesting. We did some sessions the last 3 days, and it was actually pretty challenging because you feel like you are not doing anything.
I'm not really doing anything, but suddenly I'm wrecked inside. And
exactly. It's also the getting over the boredom, because you're just constantly like doing the same thing over and over again for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And then they'll start to cramp up.
they'll start to cramp up, boredom kicks in, then you'll
So, where does that practice lead you?
that's a very interesting question. I'll tell you in 4 or 5 years.
I have to find out for myself.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing. It's what you get out of the practice is what you get out of it. There's no set thing. Like, there's part of it is just being able to defend yourself. So one of the concepts that we have in the school is that if you are scared of a physical confrontation, you can't interact with people because there's always going to be a subtle undertone of that there could be a potential physical confrontation. And this fear, for a lot of people, holds them back from really expressing themselves in the world because they think it can be at a very subconscious level, but it's just like, you know, oh, fuck that guy, you know, I want to have a bit of a shout at him or whatever, but then, you know, it can escalate. And if we're scared of that escalation or don't think we can defend ourselves effectively or smash someone, then we can hold ourselves back. So that's one of the ideas, like, because let's face it, we don't live in a violent society too much, some parts of the world, but for the most part, people don't.
Animals.
We're still animals, but we still have this at an innate level. So a lot of people that I've met in school have been in there longer. They had this and they've learned to fight properly, and then we do sparring, like no gloves, no nothing, and you know, you get into these, and then you're like, actually, hold on, I'm not made of glass. You know, I can deal with this. And that kind of helps them a lot.
Probably gives you a lot of another level of self-esteem, or
yeah, I wouldn't call it self-esteem, but just like you understand, like, okay, I can express myself, and if things do kick off, and this person, even if they kick me around a bit, you know, yeah, it'll hurt, but you know, I'll be okay.
Cool. Yeah, it's definitely interesting, and let's see what happens in the next 4 or 5 years. Yeah, well, I'll let you know. Thank you so much for being on the show.
No problem.
And for all of you, if you ever get the chance to work with Emmet in a workshop, or if you want to get on his 1-year-long waiting list for online coaching, go ahead. Yeah, it's been really interesting and insightful. So, do you have a website?
I have a few of them. So my main website is emmetlouis.com.
Okay.
That's my main thing, but then you find me on the social media. Then, just because we're here, I want to plug my program. Myself and Miakel Kristiansen have made an online course that we call Handstand Factory, that is teaching all the specific components you need to take a 2-arm handstand to a 1-arm handstand in quite a detailed manner. There's a lot of video, manual, everything, and I think it's pretty good.
We will do actually a separate episode on that one as well. Yeah, because we're at the retreat right now, the launch retreat, and yeah, there's a lot of material here. So, thank you so much for watching. I'll put any relevant links below, and I'll see you next Monday on the Zonjiland show.
Thank you.
God, you're such a wise man.
So wise. It's the beard, it's not me.